The foster home on Ashridge Lane. My name is Mason Greer, and for the past 3 years, I've tried to convince myself that what happened at 6012 Ashridge Lane was just a nightmare. Something my traumatized brain cooked up during one of the worst periods of my life. But deep down, I know what I saw was real. I was 16, in and out of foster care since I was 8. Not because I was a bad kid. I mean, I had some fights, a few broken windows, but nothing that justified what happened. The real problem was that no one wanted to keep me for long. After my third home in Ohio kicked me out, Child Protective Services told me I was being moved across state lines. Special program, the social worker said. Structured, supervised. You'll finally get the help you need. The drive took us 12 hours, mostly silent except for her country music, and an occasional, "You'll like it there." That felt more like an apology than reassurance. We pulled up to a 2-story brick building in rural Indiana, completely surrounded by cornfields. No signs, no neighbors, no traffic. The GPS didn't even list it as a building. Just coordinates. "Welcome to Ashridge Youth Recovery Center," she muttered, unlocking the door. Inside, the air was cold and stale, like an abandoned school. The walls were painted a dull grey, and the lights buzzed slightly above my head. A woman sat behind a desk. But something about her, I'll never forget her eyes. Wide, unblinking, like she wasn't seeing me, but seeing through me. "You're early," she said without smiling. Her voice was flat, mechanical. She handed me a clipboard with no pen and pointed down the hall. "Room 214. Follow the yellow line." No one showed me around. No one asked me anything. There were cameras on every corner. Old, analog ones, the kind you'd see in 90s grocery stores. My room had no windows. Just a cot, a sink, a toilet, and a small speaker mounted in the corner that clicked on at exactly 600 a.m., with static before a voice droned. "Good morning. Residents. Breakfast in Hall B. Attendance is mandatory." The other kids there, they were strange. Not cruel. Just off. They didn't speak unless spoken to. Some of them stared at the walls like they were watching something no one else could see. One kid named Riley sat across from me at lunch and whispered, "They don't let us dream anymore." "What do you mean?" I asked. "They take the good ones first." I thought he was just messed up. Until that night. At 2:11 a.m., I woke up choking. The air felt thick. Then I heard it. The scrape of rubber soles just outside my door. I held my breath and watched the doorknob turn. Slowly, quietly. I jumped to the side, hiding against the wall as the door opened, and 2 men in nurse uniforms walked in. Their faces were pale, smeared with what looked like clown makeup. One of them held a syringe. The other looked right at my bed and said, "He's still asleep. Make it quick." I stayed perfectly still. They injected the mattress, and walked out without checking. As soon as the door clicked, I sprinted across the room and shoved the cot in front of the door. The next morning, Riley was gone. "Transferred," said one of the staff when I asked. But Riley's shoes were still under the dining table. That day, I noticed something else. The back hallway, the one marked "Staff Only," was never locked. I waited until lights out and slipped through it. The hallway curved underground. Concrete walls covered in old children's drawings. But these weren't normal. They showed kids screaming, rooms full of wires, huge syringes, and a strange symbol, a triangle with a keyhole in the middle. In one of the lower rooms, I found what I can only describe as a lab. Steel tables, chains, a blackboard filled with notes in another language, and Polaroids of children. Dozens. Some missing eyes, others hooked up to machines. Then I saw my file. Mason Greer. Subject 127A. Memory threshold high. Night terror frequency consistent. I turned and almost screamed. One of the nurses was standing in the dark, holding something behind his back. "Curious boys disappear, Mason," he said. "You shouldn't be here." I ran. But I didn't go back to my room. I went deeper. The building had levels they didn't want us to know about. Floor 1. Floor 2. Eventually I reached what they called the observation ward. There were glass rooms with strapped, down beds, and on those beds, kids. Eyes open, unblinking, unmoving. Each room had a screen showing brainwave patterns and dream renders. Some of the screens showed black static, others horrific images. Torn bodies, screaming mouths, fire. Then one screen blinked to life, and I saw my own face. I wasn't asleep. I was awake. But the monitor showed my body screaming, clawing, bleeding in a bed. Then came the alarm, level breach. Subject awake. Code RED. Red lights flashed. I ran blind through the corridors. I slipped into an elevator and slammed the button for ground. But it didn't stop there. The elevator went up, past ground. Floor 1, floor 2, floor 9. It stopped on a floor labeled only. EDEN. The doors opened to what looked like a suburban neighborhood. Indoors. Fog sky. White picket fences. Houses. Laughter. But it was all fake. Children played on swings, but their faces were frozen in smiles. Like mannequins. I walked into one of the houses and found a woman setting an empty table. "Dinner's soon, Mason," she said cheerfully. Her eyes were dead. I walked upstairs. Found a boy my age sitting on a bed humming. He turned to me and said, "You're not supposed to be here. They'll take your face." I grabbed his arm. "How do I get out?" He smiled. "The door's under the lake." "What lake?" He pointed out the window to a black lake in the middle of the neighborhood. I ran for it. The surface of the water rippled like oil. As I dove in, something grabbed my ankle. I fought hard, kicked, and felt something tear beneath me. Skin. Fabric. A costume. I surfaced under a sewer grate. managed to push it open, and I emerged in a field. Alone. No building. No lake. Just corn. I walked for 2 hours until I saw headlights and collapsed on the road. A trucker found me. Took me to the nearest police station. They didn't believe a word I said. Said I probably escaped a trafficking ring. But when I asked about 6012 Ashridge Lane, they said no such address exists. The coordinates lead to a grain silo that burned down in 1993. When I told them about the kids, the experiments, the fake town under the building, they told me I had survivor's hallucinations. But I've done my research. Dozens of foster kids gone missing across Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, none ever found. Each had a final case note, referred to alternative recovery facility, location redacted. And last week, someone slid an envelope under my door. No return address. Inside a photograph. Me, strapped to a bed, eyes open, bleeding. And in the corner, that same triangle with the keyhole. I think I never left. Let this be a warning. If someone tells you they're sending your child to a special facility, fight it. Because once they're inside, they never wake up again.